Oh my God. Everything I'm about to say is really making me realise you had the most privileged upbringing in the world, Rhys. All you speak about when you're 14 and 15, I think, as a boy, is pubes and boners. The amount of lies I told about shaving pubes that didn't exist when I was a kid. I was like, oh yeah, I shaved them last night. Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it? It takes ages. You know, if everyone's got their villain origin story at some point in their childhood, mine is, as when I was about 14, maybe 15, I was debagged and my pants were pulled down in front of the school.
This is it. This is the moment.
So this is the moment
where kind of mock the week's Rhys James is born. You'll know today's guest from Mock the Week, live at the Apollo, and about half the clips that sneak onto your feed when you're meant to be working. He's sharp, he's charming, and he's written a brilliant new book. You'll like it when you get there. This is, of course, the very funny Rhys James. Thanks for coming on. We've kicked together it feels like a handful of times.
Over 15 years.
Yeah. So it's great to have you on, because I suppose I know nothing.
Yeah.
I know nothing about you, and I want to know everything about you. Where do you grow up?
I grew up in Harpenden in
Where's
Hertfordshire.
That? Oh, Hertfordshire.
It's sort of St Albans, next to St Albans, but it's also next to Luton.
Right.
So you get in, it's a bit of a breakwater between St Albans and Luton, I think.
Yeah.
But it's quite posh. It's pretty middle upper class.
What do people tend to do there for jobs?
They commute into London to do consultancy.
Right, okay.
Which no one knows what that means, including consultants. I think they just say, it's consultancy. I think Harpenden's one of those towns where no one knows what their dad does, but not because it's like he's secretly a drug dealer or anything, but because it's a word that doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. So it's like, dads, they just go to work, they wear suits.
Yeah.
They work in the desk industry, don't they?
Yes.
And they carry their laptops in little bags like that.
Yeah. They've got the laptops.
I think that's the vibe. But it's also got a posh bit where lots of footballers who play football in London live. Oh, so wow. Harry Redknapp lived there for ages, I think, in this really posh bit of it.
So what did your parents do?
Well, I don't know. They kept the fridge full, and we went to Disneyland when I was a kid. You
did go to Disneyland, though?
Oh, big time, yeah.
Often or just?
Oh yeah, sorry. Was it annually we went to Disneyland? Of course not. Of course.
I don't know.
Who does that?
I don't know. I never got to go.
Went once.
I had to wait until I was an adult.
That's worse. I think you've missed it. You need to not go.
Oh no, I loved it.
Did you go with children or just as you as an adult?
No, I went as I wasn't alone.
Well, you were with another adult.
I was with another adult. Yes.
Disney adults. You can't.
What's wrong with that?
That's the sort of thing you would do a bit of stand-up about. I can't ask me what's wrong with that. You tell me.
I love Disney.
Okay.
It's your childhood.
Yeah. So leave it there. What are you doing? Are you having frubes for dinner? Some things you move on from.
So what was Harpenden like then?
So it was like, there's 3 schools there, and they're all state schools, but it's in such a posh place, you're sort of getting the best of both worlds, where you're getting to say I went to state school, but come on.
Okay,
we just didn't pay for it, but it was really good. They weren't grammar schools or anything. They were just very high quality state schools.
Right.
So, and it was 3 of them, and it was a sort of town where everyone knew each other in all 3 of the schools, if you know what I mean. And we'd all go to each other's parties and stuff like that, and it was all quite social, really.
There's no rivalry.
Yeah, not massive. There was a little bit, where you'd sort of take the piss a bit, but only in a friendly way.
So there's no kids at lunch coming down from the other school with 2x4s.
No, none of that. Right, okay. Is that real? Does that really happen, or is it just in sort of West Side Story?
No, that really happened.
There was.
I witnessed that.
Really? Did that happen at your school? Another school?
Varndine versus Stringer.
But that to me implies a real pride in your school.
It's something
that you want to defend it violently.
Yeah, I know.
That sort of person should be the person who's trying so hard to be academic. If they're that proud of their school, rather than I'm beating up anyone who goes to a different school.
I know.
Why do you care?
But did you get a sense of, did you know it was nice even then? Your childhood, often you're kind of in this bubble. You don't really know about the rest of the world. You've got nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
So were you aware of this, that it was nice that you're in schools that aren't public schools, but pretty much,
I think we were aware. There was we were aware that it was I guess in the way that if a stand-up came to your town and would call you posh, you'd go, yes, we know.
Okay, yeah.
But you're not posh. It wasn't. It was still kind of in the middle. So there was, even by comparison to local schools, this isn't a rivalry, but there'd be the boys' school and the girls' school in St Albans, and we'd sometimes be at parties with them and kind of do a joke about us being posh, and they'd look at us like, you poor little things.
Right.
You're not posh. You're scum from Harpenden.
Yeah. You're the
but
dirt.
Then we'd look at like Luton and like Redport and like all these surrounding areas and go like, oh dear, at least we're not them kind of thing. So we're kind of the worst level you can be, because at least those posh ones are actually posh, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But also I get tarred with the private school brush a lot in comedy, so people assume I went to private school, and I get to say, no, I went to state school, and I will take no further questions. I'm from the streets, but I won't tell you where.
Yeah.
Hertfordshire. But we did have, there was like other little satellite towns around Harpenden kind of thing that were a
Why
bit...
are they called satellite towns?
Yeah, I don't think I've used that correctly, actually, because isn't that around a city? That means like little ones around a city, doesn't it? And Harpenden is a satellite town around London.
Okay, right.
But there was little villages basically around Harpenden, and they were where like, slightly by our standards at that age, rougher kids would come from to our school, and they were only rougher because they came on a bus rather than walking.
Right.
And so it was like, oh, they're the kids who get the bus. But I befriended them because I was tiny, so I needed to be friends with the big boys.
Okay.
Because it made more sense. You won't get bullied if you're standing next to them because they can't look at you. So, like the Joe Pesci method, I was like a little wisecracking sidekick.
Yes.
Richard Hammond. I was Richard Hammond to their Clarkson. And just by virtue of like playing football at lunchtime, that's all you had to do, and then you were sort of in that gang slightly.
Were you good at football?
I absolutely competent to get away with it.
Okay, that's fine.
Not breaking any records. No one's asking me to be in the football team, but no one's going like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was just a pass and move.
Position?
When I did play for teams, it would be right back.
I was right back.
Right back is a sort of, you're not a player.
I know.
It's weirdly in the modern football game, it's one of the most important ones. But back then, it was like, that's the Gary Neville role. You're sort of coasting along, just pass it up to Bex and then stand still. Yes. Yeah, that was right back, and I could cross, but that was kind of it. So I'd take free kicks.
Was that because of Beckham?
Probably, yeah, because I would just...
That's what everyone... The obsession when I was a teenager was the cross.
Everyone just wanted to... Yeah, it was that sort of era. I had not a very big garden, but a goal net in the garden where all you could practice was sort of crossing it to my brother to head it in.
You had a goal net
in the garden? I had a goal net in the garden,
That was the stuff of dreams to me.
Yeah.
No
trampoline, which was what I really wanted.
I'm sorry to hear that, mate.
So it was hard for me. It was hard for me. A trampolineless childhood. Children long to be airborne, and I wasn't able to.
Yes, you're right. What did out of interest, because I think you could tell a lot about someone's childhood. What did your bedroom look like? I suppose there's kind of child/teenager there.
Yeah. Okay, I see
you
what you
you can let me know which one.
Right.
You can do both.
My bedroom.
The transition.
was 2 rooms. So,
what?
Yeah. This isn't going to help.
What?
Kind of. It was like 1.5
Kind of. I'm bringing it down now. no, not
1.3 rooms. Like 1.3, 1.25 rooms. Basically, it was the main bit. So the bit I would sleep in was like under the eaves, like that. If
yes,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Kind of almost cabin, like quite small. It just could fit a bed in it and a bedside table, really. But then it was like an archway to get into that bit from the other bit, which is effectively a living room. So it had a sofa and a chair in it, and it had a TV in it and the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And like chest of drawers and stuff like that. But I remember
when we... Is it? Sorry to cut in.
I was born in 91, so I moved to that house, though, in probably more like 2000, I think.
Right.
So this is the noughties,
for so long, I kind of forget that actually you're considerably younger than me.
Yeah. I just started doing stand-up at 17, so I've just been around for fucking ages.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got this master.
But wait. We moved to this house. One of the best days of my life is we moved to this house. Oh my God, everything I'm about to say is really making me realise you had the most privileged upbringing in the world, Rhys. We moved to this house. We lived in a different house in Harpenden. Then we moved closer to the other school that I was going to go to in secondary school, that my brother were going to.
Yeah, we can't get the bus there.
We can't get the bus.
We'll have to move.
It would have been an extra 1-minute walk. But the catchment areas, Seann,
Yeah, of course.
And so we moved to this house, and it was like, this will be your bedroom, and it was obviously completely empty. And while the move was happening, because we were young, it's like, ideally these kids won't be around. My parents were thinking, ideally they won't be around. So our grandparents took us to Alton Towers for the weekend, and we stayed in the Alton Towers Hotel.
What?
Now, when I returned from Alton Towers... But I was a kid, and that is an appropriate time to go to a theme park.
Yes, fair enough.
When I returned from Alton Towers, I went into my bedroom to see it for the first time, and I probably was about 10, and a really small TV, like a cube TV, was in the bedroom. I was like, oh my God, there's a TV with an aerial. That's the sort of era. But it was like, I've got a TV in my bedroom, and I had 2 orange inflatable chairs.
Oh,
you know, the sort of
inflatable is
squeaky
fun.
is so much fun.
Yeah.
So
We love inflatables.
It was just those two facing a telly, and I was like, this is the dream for every kid.
When you're a child, something being inflatable and or something being see-through,
Yeah.
it's incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
If you had a Game Boy that was see-through,
Yeah, what was that
or
about?
sometimes if there was an inflatable chair somewhere, but you could see through it.
Yeah. You could see through this. It was orange see-through.
It had a great value.
Yeah.
In that. Well, yours was see-through as
These
well.
were orange see-through inflatable chairs. Yeah, I really had
Sorry,
it all.
I missed you saying. Did you tell me that?
I really had it all.
You had see-through inflatable.
Yeah. They weren't matte inflatable chairs. They were. Yeah, you could see right through these bad boys.
And were you more of a outside kid playing out or inside on games console?
A bit more
Probably
of an
all
inside
women.
kid in general, but I did play out a lot and like on my bike and playing Kirby and all that sort of shit and going up. There was a thing called the Secret Field.
Secret Field.
That sounds like where
Disclose
pedophiles
everything.
go.
It does.
Don't go in the secret field, but it was just a field like round a bit of a corner, and we'd go and play football there all the time. But I would do that all the time, but also I was like, I was definitely, I'm an indoor kid now.
You're
I'm reclusive now.
Yeah.
So I definitely was a bit more like that.
What console were you on if you were born in 91?
PlayStation 1. The first, but I remember this in the previous house, spending like the build up to a Christmas for months, just being like, "Can I have a PlayStation?" and just being told, "No, you cannot have a PlayStation." And then getting one on that day with Crash Bandicoot and FIFA, and my mind was absolutely blown because I had fallen for. Of course, you can't have a PlayStation.
That's heaven.
It was incredible.
Yes.
It was incredible. And then every Christmas, the tradition would be we'd open the presents, which would always include usually the new FIFA, a new game, and we'd include the latest Live Lounge CD of people doing Live Lounge covers. And I had like a little stereo thing in my room as well, obviously, because I'm Macaulay Culkin. Yeah. And me and my brother would like open the presents, and then like while we were waiting for the rest of the family to arrive, we'd go and play the new FIFA while listening to the Live Lounge CD.
Where's the why Live Lounge? What was it? Was this something that your parents were trying to pass down to you, or did you?
The live music was a big... No, I think I probably was like... I think Live Lounge kind of pushed out the Now That's What I Call Music annual CD slightly, because it was like... That became just a traditional thing, I think, in that era. People were... Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just me. But it feels like people were doing that. I have no idea. There must have been one cover that I thought was great once, and I was like, that's from something called the Live Lounge.
Right.
And I was like, I want the Live Lounge CD every year. And that, for some reason, would just be what it was.
Yeah. Did you learn to play an instrument?
I did lots. So I'm one of those kids who, because I had access to everything, did every hobby for 10 minutes, made my parents buy all the gear, and then said, I can't be arsed with that.
Okay.
So guitar is an example of that. When I was about 10, I played guitar for maybe 6 months.
Right. And has any of that stuck?
No.
Now?
God, no.
No instruments?
No instruments.
Can't play instruments?
Can't play anything.
Okay. And what back at school, were you well behaved?
It was a bit of a mix. So I would get in trouble around GCSE, around year 10. So that's what, 15?
So actually kind of puberty is probably mixing things up a little bit if you look back. Maybe it doesn't have to... Well, sometimes I think puberty can often... can be the bit where there's some sort of transition in behaviour.
Oh, right, yeah. I was doing a bit of rebellion then because I was like naturally quite academic, and I was just not... I would get brought into school loads with my parents to have meetings about how I was like not living up to my potential, basically. It was like, he should be getting all A's and he's just dicking about.
Well, what's the dicking about? What were you doing?
I was like back chat, wisecracking. It wasn't...
The teachers?
Yeah.
Right,
It depended on the lesson, though, because if a teacher was a bit strict, then I would just be quiet and do the work. But if a teacher gave an inch, I would take a mile and be cheeky and be a little dick. But I would respond to, like... if you'd sent me to the army, I'd have been the best. I'd been the weakest, but I'd been the most well-behaved soldier there was. Okay. Because I was like, oh, right, this person means business. I'm not being cheeky here. But if anyone was like...
You coward!
Absolute coward.
You absolute...
Lily-livered, pathetic little... The worst type of boy who's just like, oh, this teacher's trying to let us express ourselves. Well, I'm going to be a little brat and a dickhead the whole time.
This human being seems vulnerable. Yeah. I'm going to bite.
Yeah, basically, a bully. But a pathetic bully where it's like, no, that one's bigger than me. I'm leaving it. Yeah, that was the vibe. And it was also always in lessons that I like excelled in, like English and stuff like that, where I was just like, I don't need to listen because I'm better than this lot. Right. I would just be like, I'll just be cheeky, which is also selfish because you're ruining everyone else's chances.
Yeah, I don't. Of course, you don't. When you're younger, you don't. I don't think you
think
understand.
of that.
You don't think of that, and you don't quite understand that.
But I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that in a science lesson maybe or maths lesson.
Right.
But it depended. I guess no, there were maths teachers who were way too lax, where it was just like only if there was a gang. I wouldn't be doing this on my own. It was only if there was like a few of us being dicks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would never be the naughtiest in the class because there's always, I was cheeky, I was aside. There'd always be someone setting fire to something.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because obviously you've given us this kind of, illustration of the school being of, really good school, getting incredible qualifications. What was the kind of the bar for being really naughty?
Well, that was the weird thing, is because we had the boys who came in from Markyate on the bus. That lot were terrors. So they were absolute terrors.
They were bloody terrors.
They were bloody.
They came in on the bus and they terrorised.
They would that was where you're like, people are getting shoved in lockers and
shoved in lockers.
Well, maybe not. I must be thinking of American high school
drama.
Yeah. Our lockers were probably that big.
Yeah, exactly.
But people are getting I guess the low key level
barging
of bullying
was a big thing when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
I remember barging.
Oh, there was a big thing that was there was a big trend which was forking, which was the plastic forks from the canteen.
Yeah.
It was like you had to get it into the flap of someone's blazer so it would stay there, and they're walking around with forks on their back without knowing. That was a big thing in our school for a long time. Then
did you get forked?
Oh, I would have been forked a lot, yeah. But I forked.
You forked?
Lived by the fork, died by the fork.
You did some of the forking.
Yeah. But it's that was a big trend, but that's like pretty minor. There were definitely kids who were getting expelled and stuff, and I remember
what's that for?
They would just be. It would just be kind of vandalism.
Yeah,
it would just be like starting little fires or just messing up. People were putting like polyfiller in the locks and shit like that, or like.
Right.
Then we had this as I got a bit older.
That's what will happen if you have to get the bus.
You will you will have access to polyfiller if you're a bus getter. This deputy head came in from the slightly better school in the town, the Christian school in the town.
Okay.
He came in and he started this. He was like going hard on this regime of like, it's all about whether or not they have their top button done up. Because if you let them not do their top button up with their ties, then it's a slippery slope. They descend into polyfiller madness and arson. So he went crazy on everyone has to have their top button done up. And there was this big trend when he did that, everyone just biting off their top button so they didn't have one. So they couldn't do it up. So everyone in my school was just like, right, and we'd just get rid of it. So when the teacher would go, do your top button up, or you get a note in your homework diary or whatever that your mum will see, or you get like a detention, everyone goes, don't have one, sir. Don't have one, miss.
That's absolutely fascinating. So did you do that?
I herd mentality.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, survival amongst my peers was more important than getting a detention, because it was like, well, we're all going to get a detention. It was a bit like, do you remember when everyone tweeted that Ryan Giggs was the one with the super injunction? And it was like, they can't arrest us all. That's how it felt with the top button. It's like, there's not space for 1,000 kids in detention. So, what are they going to do?
Right, lovely. Thank you for bringing us back there.
I hope that super injunction expired, or I've just done it again. Yeah. I'm fucked. But yeah, I definitely remember that being a big thing where everyone was just like, fuck this guy. And then he won everyone over. And there was a video of him. Someone filmed him on their phone or something. But I feel like I had a Nokia at school, so I don't know how this is possible. Maybe it was the first type of camera phone.
There was certainly no smartphone.
It wasn't smartphone, but I think cameras were starting to appear on phones with buttons. My school did have lots of creative people who would there were like skaters at my school who seemed to have video cameras who were making skate videos and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe it was one of them.
Right.
Filmed this head teacher, this deputy head teacher who was really strict, doing keepy uppies in and around the world, and then catching it on the back of his head, and everyone being like, whoa! And it kind of meant everyone was like, fine, I'll do my top button up. Respect.
Love that.
And it did happen a few months after
wonderful.
that. It's almost like I wouldn't put it past that teacher to have gone, what can I do to get their respect? And then trained. I wouldn't genuinely. He's in his garden every night training.
Keir Starmer, if you're watching.
Yeah. That's all you've got to do. If you can do it around the world, people are going to go, you know what, fair play.
Take the flags down.
Yeah.
Have you seen what he can do with a ball?
Take the flags down, tax me more, whatever you got to do. Let them all in. They should see this.
Start the boat.
Yeah.
So
start the boat.
So okay, right. And was there an element of, you talking about herd mentality, talking about you would misbehave if you were in the group? Does it go back to you basically, as embarrassing as I think it always is, to have to kind of reveal attention seeking?
Yeah, maybe. I think it might be a bit of both. It might be the opposite as well, of like, don't look at me, I'm just part of the group.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not standing out. I think I was a bit older when I started going, I'm a bit different. When I wanted to have a different opinion to everyone, was more in like sixth form age, when I suddenly sort of started toying with like a different personality, effectively, of being like, no, maybe I should stand out and not just try and be like everyone else. The younger years, I was trying to be like there was a few specific people I was trying to be like, who were my friends, but they were sort of like a bit more alpha, and they were kind of, so I was kind of playing up to that a lot.
I know you only said it in passing, but that kind of like, oh, should I be someone or should I be someone else? Did you actually kind of, because it is an age, when you're that age, college, you go to uni, there is this part where it's young, you're kind of trying to work out who you are. You're trying to test almost different.
You're trying it on, aren't
this
you?
me? Is this me working?
Yeah.
So was it a conscious thing of, I've done that, Rhys James, let's go with this new Rhys James.
Well, and the new improved.
Yeah, and who was
it was a bit more
version?
Like, I guess actually probably the other way around, where it was like, it took until I got to be sort of 16, 17, going to sixth form, that I realised I'd been faking it up until that point by being like kind of acting a bit like a rude boy and kind of. Bear in mind, in Harpenden, by the
do
way.
We have any footage of? Can we please cut to Rhys James as the rude boy? What's up, Harpenden Massive?
Yeah.
Rhys James in the
Just
house.
talking exactly like Elliot Steele is still pretending to speak. It wasn't fully that, but definitely my outfits would have sort of been a bit like that. You know?
Well, you're allowed that.
I was doing that. But then also I would have also gone through the phase where we called it a grebo, which is, that's like the slightly more metal.
I don't know.
That's
sorry?
Grebo was the word. That's when it's like black. It's like a step before goth. But you're not like the silent goth type. You're just wearing like black hoodies.
Right.
And like baggy black jeans and
I've
maybe
no
like
idea about
bracelets.
Grebo.
That was called Grebo.
If I Google Grebo, this would be a big thing.
I hope so, yeah. As long as Safe Search is on. Well, I toyed with that. I did that for a bit, yeah, and I got into like a bit of like rock, man. And
there we go. There's the image that's going to go on the thumbnail. Rhys
James as a kid, he was rocking out. I went to this thing. There was a skate club. And also, like, I was a skater for a bit. I did it all. I was a
why? That's really interesting. What's all the bit? Why all the bits? Why testing out? I know it's common when you're young, but some people were like, they were a skater until they grew out of that and kind of almost became an adult. You seem to be experimenting.
Did it all for a bit.
What's that about?
Like, it was no different to any others of my hobbies, where it's like, buy me all the stuff, I'm going to be a skater now because skating's a bit cool, and then being too scared to drop in a half pipe because I will hurt myself if I fall over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then getting into doing it on rollerblades instead, and being quite good at that, but still being scared to do any jumps or anything like that. And just going and standing at the top of a half pipe for an hour with like a fizzy drink in my hand and just sort of watching everyone and like fist bumping people as they did stuff and being like, yeah. But bear in mind, I was also tiny. I was so small, so much smaller than everyone else. And so it did just look like, I looked like a character that hadn't been selected in Tony, like a non-playable character in Tony Hawk's, who just stands at the side watching while you get to be the guy going around doing all the tricks. I would just be like, awesome, dude.
But it's interesting that when you're younger and you're trying to, pinpoint all these kind of different kind of versions that you could be, in a way, stand-up, not for everyone, but sometimes could be this almost this person that you've designed. You can actually...
I don't think stand-up is any different to me trying on being a skater.
I
just haven't stopped doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was at a sort of age where I was still... I started at 17, so I was still kind of trying stuff on.
Young.
I did that, and it was kind of... I bet it was a bit... subconsciously, maybe I'll make this my identity for a while.
Yes.
And then it just didn't stop being my identity.
Yeah.
It just was the only one that carried on, whereas all the others fell by the wayside.
Yes.
And I do sort of think that, and I do sort of think if I hadn't done it at that age, and I now wanted to be a stand-up at 34, I wouldn't do it. I think I wouldn't be brave enough to do it. Because I was 17 and all I had done my whole life was just go, fuck it, try that.
Yes.
I just did, and then it was done. That first one was done.
Yeah.
And as we all know, once that first one's done, it's basically fine.
What about performing then?
Yeah, so
where
before I had done
start?
that, it was when I was about 10, again, I played Oliver in like a local production of Oliver Twist. I got the part purely because I looked exactly like Oliver, and still do. Yeah. So really, I think I could walk into getting Oliver on the West End tomorrow based on no talent whatsoever. And I just went to that. But again, it wasn't like I'm desperate to perform. My best mate, Sam, was going to this drama club on weekends and waxing lyrical about how fun it was. And I was like, well, I'll come to that.
So there's an Aristotle quote that I pretty much use in every episode, where Aristotle says, give me a child until the age of 7 and I will show you the foundations of the man. So obviously, I mean, in and around 7, that happens at 10. Outside of getting the Oliver, was there anything at home where Aristotle himself would be able to go, well, this kid's going to go on to be a stand-up comedian?
Yeah, only in because not in the being out there and performing and wanting attention at home. It was more the opposite, which I think is what comedians actually are. Which is, it was like my brother was kind of doing that. There's like footage on like family, like camcorder footage of like I'm being filmed just sort of sitting there doing nothing while he's like, look at me in front. And you'd go, if you're going to guess which one's a comedian, it's him.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, actually the comedian is the one silently plotting behind that one, because that one is going to get the attention now. And this one's just going to sit there like, whatever. And so I was doing a lot of that. I was spending a lot of time on the family computer on the internet, Safe Search on. Didn't have to exist then. It was a simpler time. But on MSN, on lots of internet forums, and I was entering like writing contests on the internet, like short story contests when I was like 12. So if we're adapting the age of Aristotle for inflation,
fine, yeah, absolutely.
I was doing like a lot of that stuff. I was like trying to be funny on these like forums of these games and stuff like that on the internet all the time.
Yeah.
Also, I was hell bent on becoming an admin of this forum. I was desperate to be an admin of this forum, mad on power. And this was a game called Project Rockstar, because...
Absolutely.
And that was a game where...
I'm with rock legend Rhys James.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was a game where it's like Championship Manager, but you manage a rock band that doesn't exist. And you're trying to get them a number one based on like sort of algorithm that's random. But no one really cared about the game. It was all about the forum. And the forum didn't talk about the game. The forum was just like chat from dweebs around the world. But obviously I didn't know that because I was sort of 13 thinking, these people are so cool. They're so much older than me. And the way it works is a bit like retweets or likes, is if you said something funny on the forum, the admins would give you star points. And if you got a certain amount of star points, you would get stars next to your name, like McDonald's.
What?
And I was obviously obsessed. That's like followers, I guess. Yeah. And I was obsessed with getting loads of star points because everyone who had 5 stars was an admin. And I was like, well, I'll just get 5 and be made admin. Little did I realise you also had to kind of go into these meetups and like they had to know you were a real person kind of thing and like know that not they thought you were AI or anything, but just that you could be trusted and stuff. But I was too young.
You weren't a 62-year-old man called Alan.
Exactly. But I was too young to go to the meetups, and they would post pictures of the meetups, and it would be like, whenever they did that, it would be a bit like, oh, this is just sort of middle-aged goths. Maybe I should get out with my friends and play football there. And I'm sort of being like, no, I'm on my Rockstar game. I've got to get a number 1. But I really desperately wanted to be an admin, though. I was obsessed with like, I deserved to be admin, and it wasn't going to happen. And so I then saw someone who wasn't at these meetups had been made admin because she was Greek and was translating the website into Greek for them. So I wrote to the head of this website and said, I speak fluent French, by the way. If you want me to...
Do you?
No.
Oh.
I was a 13-year-old boy.
Brilliant.
I was like, if you want me to translate this to French, I will. And he was like, oh, that'd be amazing, yeah. We'd have to give you admin powers to be able to do that, to like do the website. And I was like, oh, would you really? Oh, that's weird. I don't know. I don't mind having admin powers, but yeah, sure. If you need to do that, do that. And he was like, yeah, let me just send you this page to just as like a tester to just change the words of this page. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Assuming he wouldn't have heard of the website freetranslation.com. Obviously, I then just put it through this thing. It's absolute gobbledygook. Bear in mind, those translation things aren't very good now.
Yes,
with the technology, with AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like back then, it was just like the most literal. It was utter nonsense what I sent back.
It wouldn't exchange the grammar.
No,
would it? And
no.
Stuff like that.
So it would have just been completely literal. Would have misunderstood everything. And he also, I was basically being like, I was thinking I was going to win by being made admin. Can I work for your website for free, so that I can occasionally give someone a star point if they say something funny? But yeah, he was like, well, this is all obviously absolute drivel, so no, you can't be an admin on this website. And like, it's good. I think he just replied saying, nice try.
So what's the worst lie that you ever told?
Well, the most pathetic one is I lied to a doctor once about how many sexual partners I'd had, and I was 18 years old, and the answer was 0. But I was so in the rhythm of lying about that question that it was like a reflex, where I had gone to the doctor because I thought I'd found a lump on my testicle.
Oh yeah.
He then was doing the quiz. It's not a quiz, I suppose, but he was doing the... I got it wrong. He was doing the questionnaire before, and a bit like in the way, all adults will lie when you're asked how many units of alcohol you have a week.
Yes.
You'll go lower. He went, how many sexual partners have you had? I went higher. And the mad thing is that he said that the answer was 0, and I said 14.
That's amazing.
And he just looked at me like that, and then he just drew a circle. He basically wrote
and
NA,
in that circle
NA.
said legend.
Yeah, exactly. I wish. But he just clearly was like, no. But then also, straight after that, he said, okay, right, well, I need to obviously have a look at your testicles to check. Do you mind if a student doctor comes in to watch? But he was like, do you mind if that happens because it's how they learn? And I said, well, obviously, no, I don't want that to happen. And then I immediately had a panic attack.
Oh, my God.
I did what you're doing now, which I was just going, oh, my God. And I said, I have to leave the room. I'll be back in a sec. And I left the room, and I was having a panic attack where I was getting so hot that I went into the toilet of the hospital and just basically got fully undressed, which is too early, given I have to get undressed in a minute. But I'm just going oh my God. Bear in mind, I've just told this guy that I've had sex with 14 different people. He asks to see my balls for medical reasons, and I immediately leave the room to have a panic attack. He's sat there thinking, this is a guy who fucks. Look at this guy. He's been around the block. My God. That's the one where I was like, you're lying to a doctor, Rhys. This is pathetic.
Yeah.
And you're 18 years old.
But I mean, don't. I think in that situation, don't bring in the student.
No, obviously that's just unacceptable. And
come on, mate.
Who's going? Yeah. Who's being asked that and going up? More the merrier.
And there's some people in the waiting room that look like they've been there for ages. Get them in now.
Yeah. They're sick of Marie Curie magazine.
Yeah, come on, just get them in.
They want something to do.
See what they think.
Exactly.
So, I mean, off the back of that, you go, well, I'm going to have to do stand-up.
I'm going to have to be a comedian.
I'm going to have to be a comedian.
Yes, I'm going to have to become a comedian. But there's something mad on power about being a comedian, I think. There's something where you're just you're desperately trying to claw back some fucking control if you're being a comedian.
But what's that control? What are you trying then to
I don't know why I wanted it
from.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to get it from.
You know, as you've kind of, again, illustrated, is that everything seems nice and wonderful and idyllic. It's nice house.
I definitely have.
School.
I think it's an over-intellectualization. This to say this leads to this, but the story that is, if everyone's got their villain origin story at some point in their childhood, mine is that despite everything I've described to you about this childhood being nice, being in with this group, and everything going fine. That was all me trying to game a system that then completely fell around me as when I was about 14, maybe 15. I was debagged and my pants were pulled down in front of the school.
This is it. This is the moment.
So this is the moment
where kind of mock the week's Rhys James is born. Is debagged. And explain, just because not everyone will know that term, what's the debagged?
What happened was I was stood at the front of my class. It was the last registration lesson of the last day of term before I think Christmas or Easter. So whatever it is 2 weeks off next. But there's still maybe an hour to go of this or half an hour to go of this thing. And this boy who wasn't even one of the bullies, he was just kind of a little shit, but so was I. I was maybe dancing around in front of class, showing off in some way, which was actually quite out of character.
It's even worse as well.
Yeah, I don't normally do it.
Yeah.
I finally decided I'm going to put myself out there. Yeah, but because of the Grebo and skater fashion trends at the time, it was very popular to wear your trousers very low around your arse. Yes. And I think as a statement against that fashion, this boy, he tried to yank just my trousers down. With it came my boxers.
No!
Now, bear in mind, I told you I was tiny.
Well, it's not all in.
I was a late bloomer.
Is it?
All you speak about when you're 14 and 15, I think, as a boy, is pubes and boners. I think that's all you speak about to other boys, is you brag about how many pubes you've got and how big your dick is, which is insane, really. Given that you also use the word gay as an insult a lot. All you're talking about is each other's pubes. The amount of lies I told about shaving pubes that didn't exist when I was a kid. I was like, I shaved them last night. Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it? It takes ages. So I was like, no. But anyway, I was so many lies. All lies about...
Hours to clean.
It takes...
Hours to clean. Oh, the hoovering.
And they taste so weird. Out of the lies I would tell about this sort of sexual conquest and stuff like that, as just about losing my virginity, all this sort of stuff, constantly at that age. And then it was like God had gone, well, let's reveal the truth now to all of this lot. He's been lying the whole time. And actually, I got a bit away with it where the whole, people were a bit busy in conversation, so not everyone saw. But true to the cliche of what this is, the sort of Hollywood teen movie cliche
this is.
It's how
we're all watching it right now.
Exactly.
As you
one of the few people who saw it was the prettiest girl in school. No, obviously. Obviously. Anyway,
And luckily, she hated hair.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. She was very intimidated by large penises. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I don't want to... This is...
Are you looking for water?
There! Go.
Are you getting nervous hearing about this story? Oh, God.
I'm getting too hot. It's making me hot. Sorry. Go on.
Well, I tried to claw back a sense of dignity in that moment because that's how insane I was. Like, I was I was a kid who was like obsessed with saving face, right? And I couldn't admit. So if someone, I'm sure everyone does this, but I really have vivid memories of like being younger than this and someone saying, "Oh, have you seen Austin Powers?" and me going, "Yeah," even when I hadn't, because I couldn't admit I hadn't done something they had.
Absolutely.
And then they'd go, "Oh yeah, how good is it when he does this?" And I would go, "I've only seen bits of it," which doesn't make any sense because it's only in cinemas. So I'm leaving the cinema every 5 minutes. Am I? I'm popping back in. It was mental as a lie. But I would do that with everything. I was a liar because I was saving face. And so I'd been lying about my whole identity. And then it was exposed. And I still thought, no, I'm winning this somehow. I'm clawing back some dignity. I'm not going to do anything to this guy who's done it to me. But what I did is I just very quietly, like my posture went incredible. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'll hold my head high here.
Yeah.
Just like, and I bent down, pulled up my boxers, bent down separately, pulled up my trousers, just prolonging this moment. It's like, obviously just do it all at once and scramble and just cover up.
Well, I don't know. I think you're doing the right thing.
In the gap between the boxers being up and the trousers being down, the teacher went, "Rhys, what are you doing?" And I was like, "It's not friendly fire. I didn't do this to myself, you maniac." You think I just went, "I'm sick of being popular. Let's get this done." So I pulled it up. I walked over to the desk. So it's all silent. Bear in mind, it's now sort of chaos around me. People are going, what's going on? And like looking and laughing.
I mean, so that's some of the children there is the greatest moment of their life.
Of course. And it's the perfect person for it to happen to. You know from me now that it would be perfect to happen to me now because my behaviour is still annoying and it's like, come on, take this guy down a peg or two. He's a dickhead. So back then, you know, I hadn't had this harsh experience. So I must have been maximum there. I walked over to my desk, put my jacket on, got my bag, and then I just left the school. But I did stop at the door and sort of look back at them like... You've seen enough, I think. And then I just went home, was walking down the alleyway, and as I did, the boy who did it like came running after me and went, he was literally cracking up. He was laughing so much. He went, "Oi, Rhys, sir says I got to say sorry." What kind of fucking apology is that? Oh, no. Sir says I've got to say sorry.
Oh, and the sorry in it. What's the sorry? There's
meaningless.
No use of that.
Yeah. Oh, he's sorry. So I'll go back into school. But anyway, I just walked home.
I could have rewind it, then my trousers will go back up, and that won't have happened.
And nothing happened. I walked home. My parents were both there for some reason, and they were like, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here yet." And I just like went up to my room and just like slammed the door and was just like, "Oh my God!" And also it was an end of a term, so everyone would go to town on the end of term and like go and sit in the park and hang out. And I wasn't doing that. And then all the boys who I was friends with in other classes didn't know what would happen, so they're phoning me, being like, "Where are you? You're not coming into town?" And I'd be like, I just feel a bit weird. I can't go. And then you could sort of hear in their voices they did know, but they were like, "Don't worry about it, just come." And I didn't. And I buried my head and I didn't think about it. And I was just like, basically had a panic attack for 2 weeks.
Of course.
Of the holidays being like, Christmas dinner. I'm still just thinking about that. I'm just having flashbacks to that.
Absolutely.
Did someone say stockings? Oh my God, this is awful. Yeah, just having awful flash. Anyway, I get back to school.
Pigs in blankets.
Oh.
I didn't look at that. Oh God, I can't escape.
Pigs in blankets. Oh my God. These are huge. I then get back to school the next term and I'm like obviously just shitting myself. It's all anyone's going to talk about. But 2 weeks has passed and people have lived their lives, so no one really says anything about it. It's sort of people have forgotten. And I think I'm in the clear. And maybe a month after that, this guy who was probably one of this Mark Yaler on the bus or whatever. He was a bit more. He was a certain tier of bully that beyond anything I was sort of friends with. Just sent me an email on the school's intranet system to my school email address, which is a level of, you know, classy bullying.
Yes.
It gets classier.
Oh, pardon me. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Big, I'm so sorry.
On the word classier. On the word classier. You do a belch.
I'm so sorry.
Just had a photo attachment, this email.
No.
And it was of Condoleezza Rice, the former American Secretary of State, just doing that. Just doing a small gesture with her finger and thumb. And I cannot tell. I must have gone so red I looked like I was going to burst. But no one knew what I was looking at. So it was just me and on my own. And I sent him an email back after about a week of Condoleezza Rice doing this. Like big gesture, like she caught a big fish, thinking I've won. And then it took me about a year to realise I've basically just said, "You've got a big dick," to that guy. Based on the context, it's like I've gone, "Yeah, well, look at you with your big knob." Oh,
and
awful
therefore,
stuff.
The comedian is born.
Well, it makes sense that you're
how
suddenly
can I
going,
handle this? I know.
Yeah.
I'll have to just go on national television.
I'll get laughs on my own terms for the next 50 to 60 years. because there was someone once laughed at me for something I didn't want them to. Yeah, it is a bit like that. I will say though, because I remember talking about that on stage a couple of times, and I did it once where my friends came to the show. This is, I'm now 25 and I may be talking about this, and my friends from school come to the show, and then afterwards they were like, "What's that? What was that story about?" And I was like, "Wait, did you not know?" And they were like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think I've heard about that." And I was like, "This ruined my life." No one even fucking knew about it.
Oh my god!
This moment is the reason for everything about me, and now you didn't even know about it. It was all paranoia. It was all fake. One guy knew. Maybe the Condoleezza Rice email was an accident. It wasn't even about that.
It was just about her making a great point in one of her speeches.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see this? She made this great speech.
Yeah. Well, maybe we were doing a presentation about American politics and I'd forgotten, and it was just sending me an attachment we needed for it.
Oh my god!
It was like the scales fell from my eyes in that moment when they were like, "What was all that about?" And I was like, "Sorry, so have I been on this journey for no reason? And now I can't do another job now. I'm this now."
Yeah, you got. Yeah, I'm not coming in live at the Apollo. No, I'm fine now.
I'm fine now.
I'm cured.
I've got over it.
Okay, right. Let's for the sake of argument. Well, I don't think we have to. That is, we know.
Do you mind not doing that gesture so much? Just as a favour to me, because I'm having flashbacks.
You know how you're ending this pod, don't you? Just pulling your trousers down, and that's going to be the real.
It would be objectively the funniest possible thing to do. Is just as I'm walking out. Oh, sorry. Do you mind just? Oh God.
But then, so it's something like that then makes you feel, I suppose, it's kind of, it's outsider, isn't it? And I know that's the words that we all, I know when you talk about comedy, it's difficult to not come back to that word of outsider, but something like that can then, for the rest of your life, until you're 25 and your mates go, no,
we didn't care about that, yeah.
Could just have that impact that suddenly, oh God, I'm now out here.
Well, I think for me it was like that problem was I felt like an outsider the whole time anyway, but I had gone to incredible lengths to be an insider. I had done everything. I had bluffed every type of thing you can be. I'd bluffed Grebo and skater and football lad and all this sort of stuff. I'd like done it all. Yes. And I'd been stood next to them. I bluffed bully. I'd bluffed everything to try and just be like, no, I'm not an outsider. I was desperate to not be an outsider so much that then it was like a Hail Mary from the universe to go, no, you are, and just be it. Just be an outsider, it's fine. And then sixth form is where it started to be like, okay, fine, I'll just change and be who I actually am. And that's when it was like, I'll start doing stand-up and I'll start doing skits and stuff like that. I would like perform a lot more in assemblies, and like I'd be proud to be like a writer who was like coming up with stuff. And I wasn't hiding being like clever. When I was younger, I was sort of, that's why I was sort of getting called in to say you should be getting better grades, is because I was hiding that I was academic.
Right, that's really interesting.
But then suddenly
I imagine that's quite common.
Yeah,
because it's almost not cool, is it, when you're at
exactly.
school?
It's like I'm not putting my hand up in lessons and getting involved, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even though I do know the answer.
Okay, right. So so where does comedy itself come in before you start? What's your relationship with, I suppose, comedy and stand-up comedy?
I would watch Jimmy Carr DVDs and then write abysmal one-liners when I was like 14, 15 that made no sense. And I had this sort of bank of them. Yeah. And then one day I remember I'd got in touch with a venue that I'd heard did stand-up in Luton called the Hat Factory, which I have played since. You may have played since. There's gigs there. I
think so.
And it was in this it was actually an open mic. So basically I got in touch and said, can I come and do stand-up comedy there? I've never done a gig. And they said, we don't do this open mic night here anymore.
Back when I kind of became interested in stand-up, you wouldn't necessarily know about the comedy club. So it's already interesting to me that you know to call a venue and to say, I've got some ideas.
Yeah.
How do you become aware of such?
Well, actually, it's all because... So I knew when I was about 15, I was watching Jimmy Carr and I was going, I'm going to be that. I'm going to do that. And I wanted to act. I wanted to be an actor as well. And I'd done a bit of acting with Oliver and stuff.
Because you did Oliver.
I'd nailed Oliver.
And it just bit you in you.
And I'd quit straight after Oliver. I hadn't gone back. Because that's how I approached hobbies.
You peaked.
I peaked.
You did Oliver. You went, there's no... I can't.
And then I was like, I'll act professionally when I'm older. Hasn't happened. Literally, the CV is just Oliver when he's 10 years old. Nothing else.
Oliver, live at the Apollo.
yeah, exactly. And so I wanted to do that, but I was like, I'll be a comedian. But all comedians were 40 on telly who you could watch. And so I remember being in those like career things you'd have to go to where they say, what do you want to do? What are you going to be? What do you want to be? Yeah. And everyone would be, it was the sort of age where everyone says, I'll be a fireman, I'll be a footballer. And I would say, because I was such a precocious little twat, I would say, well, I'll probably work in advertising for sort of 10, 15 years and then I'll do stand-up comedy.
Right,
And then feel like, good, which is basically what Jimmy Carr had done. And John Bishop, he'd worked for Shell or something, hadn't he, or BP, and then just gone, fuck this, I've got a good car, I'll drive to some gigs.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll just do that. I'll just be a corporate guy and then I'll go and do comedy. Because that's how you do it. And then Jack Whitehall
that's the beauty of being
was
young,
18
isn't it?
and he got famous at 18. When he burst on screen around this time,
yes,
he was about a year. He's like a couple of years older than me, and I was like, "Oh, a young person can do it. Fine, I'll try it."
I think he's a year younger than me. How old are you?
34.
Is he 35?
Is he? No, maybe he's 37 or something like that.
Right.
But he was like a couple of years ahead of me. He was on telly. Maybe he was 19, and he had spiky hair.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, right,
and tight jeans."
Yeah, and it was like, "Oh, you can be like that and do it and be this young."
Yeah.
Turned out, no, you can be Jack Whitehall and do it. It's not like everyone young is going to be on telly and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're still going to have to wait till you are 40 to be on telly, you idiot.
But there's something you could identify with,
Definitely.
Still
it was like, you don't have to, you can start now. And then I think I mentioned it to a friend of mine who was in band. I had lots of friends in bands. And they were like, well, you can go and do open mic at this venue.
Okay.
And I've seen people do comedy there before.
Right.
And so I was like, okay. So I emailed them. They said, we're not running this open mic night anymore. I was like, cool. And it was almost like, well, I've done the hard part, which is asking if I can do it.
Yes,
now I can wash my hands of this experience. And then they emailed me back 6 months later and said, we're doing one of these nights if you want to come and do stand-up.
Wow.
There. And I remember showing this email to my mum and saying, I guess it's time I stop making excuses. And she said, well, you're 17 and you haven't made any excuses. So I don't know why you're speaking like this. But I was like, shut up, Mum. I guess it's time. I stopped.
Yeah.
I was like,
Mum, this is my biopic.
Exactly.
That I'm in.
Trying to have a sense of destiny about this man, for fuck's sake. And then I went and did that gig and it must have been abysmal. I was the only comedian on, I think it was all bands.
I think what's interesting, by the way, going back to something you said, which is about working in advertising, and then I'll become a comedian when I'm 40, is what I'm drawn to about that is that it's kind of the beauty of youth and naivety. You almost need, in your story that you've told me, it's like you need that naivety to be able to believe that you could do it.
Oh, definitely.
It's your lack of understanding of kind of the real world that allows you to go, well, I'm gonna do that, because if you were in your 30s, is that you would understand too much
100%.
About the world, that the idea of doing something like that would be ludicrous.
Well, that's the thing, is you often get asked as a comedian, you often get asked, like, what's the moment where it clicked that this actually could be a career for you? And my feeling is it never didn't.
Yeah.
There was never a moment where I thought, oh, maybe I won't be able to do this. Because I wanted to do it when I was 15 and I started when I was 17. And then it was just like, well, I'm going to be a comedian because I'll just keep going. And this is also privilege. I do understand this. Is like, I don't need to make ends meet at this age in a certain way. I have support of my parents and stuff like that. And I can go to university and do loads of stand-up for 3 years and then get good enough to start getting 50 quid here and there once I've finished. You know what I mean? So
again,
it was like,
but
it's naivety as well. It's definitely the whole starting young thing. Yeah. Now it would be like, that's too much going on. You know what I mean? It's like, I need to make money.
You don't have the privilege of youth. You've got responsibility. Responsibility is that's going to put a lot of, close a lot of doors in itself.
And it's not the boom anymore. And so it would be stupid. Unless
dying.
It's over.
Well, listen, it's been thoroughly interesting. It's wonderful, isn't it? At the beginning of this, not really knowing you.
Now you know too much.
Yeah. No, but it's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A pleasure.
And all right, I'll see you soon.
See you in 10 years.
The fantastic Rhys James there. An absolute pleasure talking to Rhys and getting to know him, I suppose. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Oh, comment and like. Please share the podcast, leave comments, like it. Does us a huge favour. Thanks a lot. Take care. Goodbye.